You can control what you can control, and you cannot control what you can't control. I can control the effort. I can't control the outcome. So if I couldn't control the outcome, what did I need to do to become a different person? And that is the energy that I brought into 2026. One of my favorite quotes is by Bill Gates. And he says, we have a tendency to overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade. That's why I have made the dedication to share my quarterly reviews. At first, it just started off with this random idea, like I'll just share what I did over a quarter. And then I started realizing that the greatest gift that I can give myself and bring you in on the journey is to document the journey, to show you the ins and outs, because at some point in the future, I can't help but wonder that maybe, just maybe, something in quarter 4 at the end of 2025, you could look back and say, you did something without knowing the outcome and it yielded something pretty dang incredible. So with that, welcome to the Jasmine Star Show. My name is Jasmine Star and I empower business owners to scale businesses to 6, 7, and 8 figures. This show is all about documenting the process and finding ways that you can do the exact same thing that I'm doing in your business. Big themes that came up in quarter 4 is saying yes, having conversations, and taking a break. Okay, how does this all work together? So I just want to start off by saying that the small things you're doing now can turn into big things. This was just a note that I have in my notebook to make sure that I'm understanding what I'm doing, who I'm doing it for, and the why behind of it. When I look back at the end of 2025, that was October, November, and December, I had a mantra. That quarterly mantra was how you do one thing is how you do everything. So one of our core values here at Jasmine Star Brands is extraordinary is our baseline. That if somebody doesn't walk away from an event or a mastermind or a course and say that was extraordinary, then we didn't do our job. So how do we pursue extraordinary? Well, we focus on excellence. So how do you do one thing? That's how you do everything. So every meeting, every project that I want to take on, I ask myself, how can you be excellent at this? My version of excellent. So I kind of want to take that into our theme. So the question that I had was, how are you fostering excellence so that you end excellence with 2025 and start 2026 on a new chapter? So let's begin with October. So there was a mix of business and personal. I'm going to start off with the personal because for some reason, when I shared this random thing on social media, it got a lot of questions. So my daughter is in kindergarten, and every week, every day, there's a parent who volunteers in kindergarten. Well, I aligned my work schedule to be one of her volunteers. And some people don't know, I was homeschooled my whole life. I never went to kindergarten. So as I walked my daughter into her kindergarten, it was my first day of kindergarten too. I don't know why. I was nervous. I told my husband, we were driving, and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm around 5-year-olds and I'm feeling so intimidated. It was a really cool experience. Now, first things first, anybody who works with children in the elementary school system, God bless you. My daughter goes to a co-op, so it's like half homeschool, half school. And so she was there for 3 hours. I left that class 3 hours in and I was like, I need a vacation. I need to drink maybe a martini or 10. I need a nap. I need Calgon take me away, take a nap. I was there for 3 hours. I do not know how kindergarten teachers do it. So God bless all y'all that do it. I wanted to also take a step back and distinctly say that it's a gift to be able to build a business that serves my life first. And this is where people have questions, so I'm just going to answer them all here. I know that I have built an atypical life. And I know that I have an atypical standard relationship when it comes to gender. My husband and I are co-founders and business partners. However, he is her 100% primary caretaker. We had an open conversation around what our business looked like when we became parents, and I made the decision and he made the decision, and then we made it together and said, this is the decision we're making, so it's a little bit atypical. I can't volunteer as much as I would like, but when I do, I keep it a priority, and I know that it is a luxury. And I've said this before on the podcast, and it rubs people the wrong way, but I'm going to keep on saying it because I think that somebody out there possibly needs to hear it. I am an entrepreneur who's a mom. I'm not a mom who's an entrepreneur. During the workday, I act and function like an 8-figure CEO. I happen to work at home. I have the luxury most days of doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my daughter. I get to wake up with her. I get to put her down at bed. I get to do bath time. We get to read books. That is a gift. But make no mistake, during the workday, I treat it like I am building an empire because that is what my husband and co-founder have done and decided. I also realize it's not for everybody. And I also realize I don't have an opinion about your opinion about how we roll. I have chosen to live an atypical life, so I make atypical decisions. Hey, okay, that's going to be probably the only personal thing we're going to get into. Let's get into the work. October 11th through the 14th, I went to an executive retreat called Hampton. We flew to Austin, Texas. I recorded a whole podcast with a deep dive on what this did and how it transformed my business. I will be sure to link it in the show notes. But as a brief recap, there was a change around, I thought I was going just for a business perspective. And what I came to find out was a lot of mindset. Let me tell you, I would say 95% of this event were men. And there I am with guys who are crying and they're doing breath work, like holotropic breath work, and they're finding their purpose and their why. And it was a really cool experience to step out of what is like my normal day to day and be around other people who think really, really big thoughts. Now, I didn't know then, only when I look back, is I went to this event because I wanted to have expansion from an executive perspective, but I was laying bricks. So what happened at that event is that I landed 2 podcast interviews with totally new audiences. I hired an executive coach. I'm in the process of hiring an executive coach for our COO from that event. And I landed an interview with Inc. magazine as a result of being at that event. So this is just another way that it's me documenting so that when somebody at some point in the future is like, oh, Jasmine's in Inc., must be lucky. Well, it is an element of luck, but it's also putting yourself in the right rooms. It's also making investments and bets on yourself to be in places that are a little bit uncomfortable. I had a lot of growth opportunities there, which is why I get into different rooms to meet other people, because if we just stay in the same spot, we will always be getting the same results. But the best thing I walked away with, which is what I documented on that podcast, was a lot of internal growth. There was a lot of opportunities for me to let people in, to accept help from other people, and to have conversations that would not have happened otherwise. I might have mentioned in the podcast before that our goal, my husband and I, our goal was every time I'm traveling for business, 99% of the time we're going to be traveling together. So my daughter and husband were with me in Austin, and I was able to walk away from the event, kind of like digest, go through some notes, ideation, him like kind of strategize, and then he would take her out to dinner, go to the library, and then I was back at the event. So here again, blending of an atypical life with atypical decisions. October 17th, this was a podcast recording day. Now, I batch my podcast content. As 2026 takes off, we're looking at new ways of creating this because the podcast is, yes, a bit for me, but it's mostly how can I share and help people along in the journey. So on that podcasting day, I'm taking particular note because I interviewed a woman by the name of Dylan Jarhouse. She talked about how she's built an 8-figure Etsy empire. She teaches people how to build their Etsy stores. And it was during one of the breaks that we began to talk about content. And she told me, hey, I have this friend, you should check him out. So randomly, I just followed him based on her advice, and I didn't look any more into it. Here again was another brick I had laid without knowing. I'm going to talk to you about what had happened just a couple weeks later in a second. We're going chronologically through the quarter. October 20th, I taught a class called The 3 Money Beliefs That Made Me Millions. It was a free no-pitch class. Okay, so I love teaching these classes. We called them, inside of the business, we called them brand classes. So what is a brand? A brand is what you make somebody feel. Now, we also have master classes where we teach somebody a topic and then we have like a directive, what we call a CTA, a call to action. What do we want somebody to do when they watch those educational classes? Okay. This was a brand class, which meant I didn't need anything from anybody. I just wanted to come in and share things that has wildly helped my business. I have this big mindset shift in my business going from making $10,000 a month. That was the biggest thing for me in my business. The minute I was able to make $10,000 in my business, I felt like game over. This is the start of something. And then I was like, well, can I make 6 figures a month? And what, can we do 7 figures a year? Can we do 7 figures in 1 year? Can we do 7 figures in a month? All of these things started happening over time. And this past summer, I went away and I kind of just had the download of there were decisions you had to make in order to get to where you want to go. What was the mindset shifts that you had to make those millions? So it was literally on a flight home that I'm like, the whole class came to me. I was like, heck yes, let's go. I'm going to teach this. I don't want to ask anybody for anything. I was ready to go. I felt like, Q4, I'm going to do this thing because brand is how you make somebody feel. So if I can get online and make somebody feel something to take an action towards building $1 million lifestyle, then heck yes, let's go. Okay. I was fired up. Clearly I was. And then the day of the class comes around and AWS has an outage, like unprecedented. I mean, when does Amazon fail? Hardly, ever. Doesn't happen. On this day, it did. So the thousands and thousands of people who registered for this class, we couldn't send text messages. We couldn't get emails. We couldn't send emails. We weren't even sure if Zoom was going to work. So we had thousands of people who signed up. And literally minutes before the class happens, I realized there was about 20 people here. That was awesome. That was really great. I was so excited. I was just like, oh, isn't this the irony? It's like my millionaire mindset beliefs. They got super challenged right there. Like, what was the mindset I was going to be taking in there? So we decided to go through the class. About 100 people were there live. And I told myself, okay, this was meant to happen. You could choose to fight. You could choose to be upset, or you could just choose to say, was the class teaching about the class, or was the class simply raising your hand saying that you were going to do something different and in a different way? What did I learn? Who did I impact? And how did I need to get better? Okay, that was the mindset shift that I had on that day. But I was like, I did all this work. No, heck no, we're going to do this again. Okay, so then the following week, just for the people who signed up, and I'm like, we're going to do this again. We'd love to see you online. And I think that the class was highly attended, and the class got a really great piece of feedback. And it was me stepping into becoming the person I needed to be to end 2025 so that starting 2026, it was another tool in my tool belt. Because you can control what you can control, and you cannot control what you can't control. I can control the effort. I can't control the outcome. So if I couldn't control the outcome, what did I need to do to become a different person? And that is the energy that I brought into 2026. Okay, so I believe that everything was happening for me, but as a business and a business perspective, the people who signed up for the class and they didn't get any reminders, they couldn't access the class, I didn't want there to be like a breaking of trust. They said, I'm going to give you my time and then you're going to ghost me. So from a business perspective, it was one thing for me to have a mindset shift. Everything's happening for me. But another thing is I had to clearly communicate from a business perspective what happened, how we're making it right, and how we can fix it, and how people can join on that journey. Okay, so now we're towards the later of the month. It's October 21st to the 26th. I went to Santa Barbara for a personal event. A friend had a baby shower, and I just needed a break. I was like, JD, we just need to get away. We've just been hitting it a little too hard, and I like to have just long weekends. So we went to Santa Barbara. We had a great time. Why am I talking about a baby shower and a laying bricks? Here's the theme. I'm going to tell you, like a good independent movie maker, what they'll do is they often start the movie with like the end at the beginning, and they immediately pan over to the start of the scene so that the viewer is a little bit like, wait, what's going on here? And so then you have to reverse engineer everything that's happening and why the movie ended that way. So this is the end of the movie. The end of the movie is if you don't talk about your business, nobody else will. Even if it makes you awkward, even if it makes you feel icky, you must be talking about your business, especially until the audiences are talking about your business. Okay, flash forward. This is Montecito, California. This is just lush oak trees and eucalyptus. This is driving up through horses in stables and riders and sun dappling light through the trees. This is fresh bottles of Veuve Clicquot opening and these gorgeous little china. It's like, I'm not even fancy. Teacups, china teacups. I think that's what they're called. I'm so not fancy. I don't even know that the proper thing of them. They have these little tiny gold spoons and these like little sugar cubes. And this is like, oh, this classy. This is classy. For a girl from East LA, I showed up, I was like, girl, just being here, you made it. I'm not even thinking about business. I'm just sitting here thinking about finger stuff. Okay, there's this one part, it's not even in my notes. They have food out on a food station, and I don't see the cutlery. I don't see the rolled, like, forks, spoons, and knives. So everything, there's finger sandwiches, there's crudité, there's all this other stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I guess we're just gonna just eat with our fingers. So I put it on a plate, I sit down, and I don't know anybody at this baby shower. I know the woman who's having the baby shower. I don't know any of her friends. I don't know if they're in her family, but I show up because I'm a ride or die. I'm gonna be there for her. So I sit down by myself and I'm eating with my fingers, and then other people join the table and they unroll their independently cloth rolled cutlery. And there I am with a soybean or a green bean, whatever it was, and hummus, and I'm chomping away and I'm like, oh my God, are you going to wipe your hands on your pant leg right now? Because what other option do you have? So how do you play it off? Like, oh, yeah, I don't like forks. I just stopped eating. And I was like, okay, no more lunch for you. As I'm sitting there, people started talking and like, I don't know anybody. They start asking me what I do. And then I start speaking to a therapist. It's the therapist. She's built this wildly successful practice in, I'll just say, Southern California. She works with a lot of Google executives. I mean, the girl has it going on. Wildly educated, so well-spoken. She's like, you want to know, it's just, I'm at a point in my life and my career where I wish that I could do things in scale. Right now, I'm trading very well. I'm getting compensated for a one-on-one therapy session with an executive. I wish I can do this better. I wish I can do this online. And I'm like, wait. Are you saying you would like to teach a concept to a group of people who pay you so that your hourly rate meeting with 5 to 10 people at a time is more than meeting with one person at a time? And she's like, yes, exactly. I was like, girl, you have no idea who you just done sat next to. I do this for a living. Like, the digital world is my space. So we start talking, and I want to bring in a little bit of a framework, because as I walk people through the Consistent 10K, one of our program offerings, a lot of times people are very nervous about talking about what it is they sell. And I have to go back and like reverse engineer. Jasmine, when you first started off and you became a photographer, you had a very hard time saying to people that you were a photographer because you kind of sort of didn't believe it yourself. You had a camera, you had passion, it had a way to make it work. But did you actually believe that? And so I always joke that when I became a photographer, I was photographer. Like, it was like a remix. I was like, I was rapping. I'm a question mark. I'm not sure. And with every iteration of my career, that's the same thing that always happened. So I look at her and I know that she wants to say something that she really wants to do. And I have the opportunity to not repeat the same mistake. I am not going to say, well, I'm an educator. No, I'm like, I have a holding company, and inside of this holding company, we have different divisions of businesses that we help elevate and amplify somebody's trajectory. And she was like, well, how would that look for me? So now let's go through a framework. When somebody's talking to you about what it is you do, I want you to look at this as a brick. You are laying a brick. So let's go down. When people ask, my best tips and advice for somebody when they're asking you what it is you sell or what it is you do, when it's done right, when you have this engaging conversation, people are going to say, well, who is it for? What do you sell? How do you do it? Great. When that is happening, number one, you always want to answer who it's for. When I was speaking to her, I said, well, the Consistent 10K is for business owners who'd like to create an offer online that generates consistent 10K months. Great. Number two, always answer what your process is, because people immediately want to start aligning. Does that work with me? Does that vibe with me? So Consistent 10K is a 90-day program, and every step is listed out, detailed, and you are working with a coach and live leaky coaching. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They start explaining the process in great detail that would make somebody say, oh, no, that's not for me. So when they ask about the how, my kind advice and framework would say, you know what, it's very detailed and we want to make sure that it's in alignment with you. What I would love to do is set up a separate time to talk. Now, I invited her, hey, book a call with one of our sales team. And she did. You might have a sales team, but you can be doing this. Let's set up a Zoom call. Let's set up a phone call. Let's go on DMs so that you could follow through a very specific sales process. So reminder, you are uniquely positioned to help people. If somebody asks, say your name, say it out loud, and say it again. Talk about the what the program is and who it's for. But when you talk about the how, get them in byline to a way that you could follow a sales process. And talk about your offer in a way that's about them. Not, I do this, it's people get this result. That changes everything about the alchemy of that conversation. Okay, so now we are in November. A bit ago on the show, I had explained that I take once a month, I take a full day off and I call it a deep work day. No meetings, no tasks. I go deep and I ask myself, are we working towards getting the things that we need to get the results we want? This is kind of like a recalibration time for me to cut out the noise and say, are you tracking on what you should be doing? So I went on this one day in November because I wanted to think about our big next hire. It was a pretty big role for us. It was an executive role. And I will tell you that in November, I realized I had done it wrong. So what I did wrong? Well, I created a role within the business that was very broad. Now, my thinking, okay, this was my thinking. Well, somebody already does that role now, so we can hire somebody to replace her, except for the fact that the person who's doing it now, she's kind of a gangster. Like, she's just a unicorn. Like, everybody knows that her capacity is next level. Like, she has atypical capacity. She has atypical skill set. And also, she's been working in the business for over 5 years. She understands all arms of the business. So to bring somebody in to that role, it was just too broad. I was expecting too much from somebody on the outside. So I worked with a consultant and we were working with a recruiter, and that consultant had said, listen, your job description is way too broad. You're not going to attract somebody. So on my deep work day, and I'm sharing this as a brick because sometimes we're in motion and the kindest thing that we could do for ourselves is just to stop and say, okay, this isn't working. How do I attempt to fix it? I might not get it right, but what's my attempt? So when I looked at the role, I immediately said, okay, I need to divide this role into two distinct and separate roles. So on that deep work day, I divided it out and then I said, this role is for this and this role is for that. So what I decided to do is then set my focus on a sales manager with experience. And I wanted a sales manager with experience building an 8-figure business in a specific amount of time. There's a lot of other details that we can get into at a later point in time. So I got very specific around the role and who specifically I wanted to run the sales operations. There were 3 things that I dove in specifically. Qualities, value, map. I wanted to make sure that this person shared qualities as a human that we share on this team. Is she proactive? Is she communicative? Is she clear? Is she kind? Is she driven? Is she self-motivating? All of these things that just created a bubble map. This is like the thing that I need to have this person do. I needed to clearly outline how I saw this role in the future and how I saw it expanding. Because yes, I could hire her for now with where we were in the business, but I wanted her to set her visions big on where we were going to go. And I needed that to come from her, not from me or her or him. I'm kind of giving away the plot right about now. And who was this person? Was she embodiment of our culture? Could this person come in and land and just feel like, oh, I got this and I'm going to run? That was going to be very important for me because we're moving fast and I don't want to hire somebody who's good without them being in alignment for who we are as a culture. Okay. So when I got very crystal clear on who I wanted this person to be, I said, Jasmine, these are your standards. If this person does not align on every single one of those standards, even if this person's great, it's not a hire. So I'm going to come back to this in just a second about how that lens became what I looked through entirely. On November 6th, so just a couple of days later, I invested $5,000 for a 2-hour consult. And I say this because when I laid down that brick, it was an expensive brick, period, the end. Paid somebody $5,000 for 2 hours because this person had years and years and years of consolidated time and experience around a very specific question I had. And at the end of those 2 hours, I probably would have paid more. He didn't give me information. He collapsed time. He collapsed mistakes. I'm telling you straight out, I probably, likely would have made a mistake that cost $5,000, not because I'm dumb, just I didn't know. So that alone, I was ROI positive the minute I clicked off my computer. So he sat down and he was creating a future vision for myself based on all of his experience because I can't tell you, I can't shake it, and the team's going to hate it when they hear this. I feel in my bones a live event. I just do. I just do. I'm not going to get into the details, and no, it's not going to be Tony Robbins, large scale. Okay. You're not going to see me in the arena, at least not yet. We'll see that for 2027. But what I am saying is I definitely feel with AI, I definitely feel like people want high touch. I definitely feel like honest to God, sometimes we need to be in a room so that our butt gets kicked. Period. The end. Sometimes you need to shake up your life so you come to it like, what is the thing I want? I see live events, but if I'm going to go to my team, if I'm going to go to our CFO, if I'm going to go to our accountant and say, we need to put up this money for these funds, I need to lay out a case. I spent $5,000 to lay out a case of profitability, of origin, of support, of what it would look like. I collapsed time. Okay, so let's go back. Remember how I just said I interviewed a woman by the name of Dylan Jarhouse? I get off this 2-hour consult and I'm just like, I'm in my head and I'm thinking, okay, how do we do this? What does it actually look like? And then I open up Instagram and I see, remember that person that Dylan told me to follow? I randomly see a reel and it's just like, oh, this is a diary of my daily life. I didn't even know who this person was. I was like, how is this person in my feed? But I'm so drawn in by the content. I was like, oh, who is this person? He's on the beach with his family. He's talking about his work day. And I was like, okay. Then I go to his account and I start looking at all of his content. And I was like, oh, I remember this cat. He's kind of a vibe. I like the way he's thinking. He's just doing things in his own way. So I sent him a DM and I was like, hey, Dylan connected us. Nice to meet you. That one day, probably in the span of 2 hours, we sent back like 16 different DMs. And he's like, you want to get on a call? I was like, great. Yeah, let's get on a call. We were just talking content. We were just like 2 content nerds talking about content. So we're vibing. I'm driving back from therapy. So I did this 2-hour consult. We start DMing. I go to therapy. I have a therapy session. I'm driving back. So y'all, like the spectrum of where my mind is, I had to be like, I was on an emotional high. Like I was weird. I was just spaceys all get out because he says, oh yeah, next week I'm going to be in Las Vegas. I'm going to be creating content. And I was just like, do you have a day to create content? And he's like, in Vegas? I was like, yeah, like if I flew out there, could we create content? And he's like, sure. The brick from the previous month happened all in a single day. So then I get home, I tell my husband, business partner, I was like, do you want to go to Vegas? And he's like, yes. I was like, I'm going to create content. He's like, womp, womp, womp. Anyway, so I booked him. November 14th happens. Like, this is a very short amount of time. And his pitch was that, like, I understand virality. I ask you questions, no script, no plan. You come in, we record for 4 hours and you get short form content. I probably should have asked more questions. I'm not even lying. Because we're in Vegas and I'm just like, oh my God, this is like a dream. Like, I just get to create content. I don't have to do any preparation. So this is me preparing for 2026 of doing things in new ways and shaking it up. So that I spend the full day. We're at a studio Vegas. It's probably 4 hours of Q&A. I do a separate podcast interview. JD and I go out to dinner and I'm like, I can't believe we just created so much content. This is so great. And at the time of this recording, that content has not seen the light of day. More on that in a second. I'm sitting at dinner and then I'm like, my hands start shaking uncontrollably. And JD's like, what's going on? And I start telling him some of the things that I said during this flash fire interview. And he's like, really? That's what you said? And I was like, yeah. He's like, how does it make you feel? I was like, I feel like I'm going to piss off a lot of people, but not intentionally. Because what I've done is I've just created helpful content. Nobody really cares about my opinion. And all this guy was asking about my opinion. And you see, like, for those who don't know me, like, the real is like, my opinions have opinions. And my opinions are not for everybody. And I think that the way I talk, it's set up. I have a voice, like, if I come in, and I'm just like, well, let me just tell you what to do. See, let me tell you, when I ask you for a cup of water, I want you to say, I too know what it's like to thirst. I know what it's going to take to do something. And when he's asking me questions that I have opinions about that have nothing to do with my business, and I said it, I was like, oh my God, I think this is going to bite me in the butt. It's 2:00 in the morning that night and I can't sleep. And I wake up and I'm like, okay, so then I said this other thing, JD, about this one thing. And he's like, okay, 4:00 in the morning. So you see, I said this other thing about this other thing. So here's the thing. I'll just be very clear. I don't talk about motherhood. I don't talk about relationships. I don't talk about my weight loss journey. I don't talk about my faith so publicly. What did I talk about on that interview? He's like, here's one question. I don't know if it's going to make the light of day. He said, so tell me, would being fat help you as an entrepreneur? What? And I was like, I don't even use the word fat. It's like fluffy, curvy. And he's just like, well, I'm asking the question. How is being fat? How did it help you as an entrepreneur? I was like, oh my God. So we're still working through that. But why am I talking about that brick? I'm talking about that brick because my husband sat across from me and I said, I just think that I might have spent too much money and not enough attention to the detail. And he said, okay, so you might have learned a really expensive mistake. We'll let it go and we'll see if it's a mistake. And then we get back on and we try something else again. So as you start seeing me have opinions about whether or not children should have access to iPads, let me know. Yeah, okay. November 18th, I went to a female networking event here in Newport Beach. It was very random. I got a DM from somebody I didn't know. And she says, we're having this event and we're bringing in these investors. And I was like, okay, cool. How much is it? She's like, we want to give you a ticket for free and then you can invite a friend. And I said, okay, I was going to go by myself. It was after a very long work day. The day of the event, somebody came into my mind. A woman who lives here in Newport, who I absolutely love. And she didn't cross my mind before, but she crossed my mind like 3 times in the span of 3 days before the event. I texted her and I said, hey, I really think you should be at this event. I don't know why. I think you should. Her name is Lori Harder. She's been a guest on the podcast and she was also a guest co-host. And so the topic of this event was being an investor and getting investments. And so I went into this event and my mantra for the event is you don't get what you don't ask for. I have a hard time asking for anything. I don't know how to ask for help. I don't even know how, I don't know, like for like the 1% of guys who watch this show and for all the women, I have a hard time. Like, have you ever been in like a bathroom stall and there's no toilet paper? It's like, you need it. Like, there's nothing else. Like, you have to ask. And I'll sit there like, I don't think I can ask. Oh, like, to bother somebody with getting me toilet paper. It's a necessity. And yet I have a hard time asking. So that's to the degree that I have a hard time asking. So I went into this event being like, if you're going to be around investors and you yourself invest, you don't get what you don't ask for. So stay open. And so during this event, we were learning a lot. I was sitting in the audience and I kept on looking over at my friend. Hold on. In my notes, hold on. I'm not sure if I was supposed to say her name. Okay, well, we're rolling with it. Lori, I'll hit you up in a text message. I think I was supposed to keep her in my notes. I was supposed to keep her vague. But you want to know what? You don't get what you don't ask for. Lori, I'm going to text you. We were in there having these conversations and they asked for live pitches. And I'm looking at her being like, what? Like pitch your company Glossy. It's a hydration stick for glowing skin and bloat. And she's like giving her life to this project. And I'm like, go. And she just sat there quiet, confident, doing her own thing. I was like, okay, cool. So then at the end, we go up to the investors and the speakers and I'm saying, thank you so much for having me. And I introduce them to Lori. And then because it's getting a little bit late and I'm like, want to put my daughter to bed. I'm like, hey, I have to go. Lori, I'll catch you on the flip side. And guess what happens? The next day, that night, Lori texts me and says, Jasmine, I pitched and they're going to be joining this round. Hot dang. I just knew that beyond all else, getting in the room and watching how key players play and inviting people into it. So a reminder for me is that what goes around comes around. Is that I pulled up a chair at the table for her without knowing how desperately she needed to be at that table. It was an opportunity to amplify and grow. And when I lay a brick for other people, I have to believe at some point in the future, someone's going to lay a brick for me. Can I get an amen? Okay. Now we're at the end of November, which is November 21st. It's another podcasting day. And here's the thing. Nobody cares about this brick. But I am saying this brick because I think I take deep pride in it. And at the same time, I also know, girl, you can't keep up like that. I was trying to slow down in December. So I wanted to batch November and December podcast. We did 12 podcasts in a day. I think we started at 7. I think we went to like 6. It was crazy. I didn't want to talk to anybody for like a full 48 hours after. And my biggest takeaway was not, oh, look at what we did. Look what we accomplished. Nobody gives a rip. Nobody gives a rip even about the results that we're getting. I'm laying a brick and I'm realizing that you don't know what you're capable of until you've been truly challenged. I would tell you that my maximum for podcasting would be 8 in a day. And like, that is like gnarly. That's freaking gnarly. So if somebody said 12, I looked at this and I was like, are you going to do this? Are you going to do this? Get real. Are you going to do this? I was like taking deep breaths in between like changing outfits. I was like, you got this, girl. It's okay. You can do it. You just can't do it. I'm going putting eye drops in my eye, taking another sip of caffeine. I'm like, hey, welcome to the Jasmine Star Show where it looks like we have everything together. Little do you know, I'm living off Celsius and like 10 almonds. Let's go. So I'm saying that because you will do whatever it takes to get where you want to go and you don't know what you're made of until you are challenged. So ladies and gentlemen, if you've made it to this point in the podcast, welcome to the challenge. Push yourself for more. We're going to be closing the quarter in December. We're going to do a flash fire. December 2nd, I had a sales call for a nutritionist and online fitness trainer. It was like 2 people doing this program. And guess what? I was like, you can't snow the snowman. I see sales. So I went to the sales call. I was like, not really sure. And then what happens is that the course of the month, it was so good. They just randomly would send emails or text messages like, hey, how's that holiday eating working for you? And I was like, oh, don't remind me. Oh, just wondering how the consistency of your workouts are in December. I was like, all right, ladies, take my credit card. I will start the program like every other basic girl on January 5th. Started something. I made a decision 33 days before I was going to start it because I knew that something had to change personally. I'm out here creating a business podcast saying, well, if nothing in your business changes, nothing's going to change in your business. I had to say that to myself. December 2nd, I had an interview with a woman who came in specifically for the sales director role. I liked it. She sat through all of those core values that I had listed in of saying, this person needs to be values alignment. This person needs to be a driver. This person needs to have built an 8-figure sales department in this amount of time. And she clicked every single one of those boxes. On December 4th, I invited our marketing project manager to go on a walk. She's based in Southern California, and it was a full moon. And I just think it's so fun. If you've never gone on a full moon walk, people are thinking you're crazy. Listen, the moon is out. I started my walk at 5:15 in the morning. The night sky, the full moon is out. And as you're walking, the sun is rising and the moon is disappearing. I'm telling you, there just be like magic out there. I'm like walking by the water. I was like, we're out creating new things in a new season, in a new ways. Y'all do a full moon walk. Oh, look at this. If I ever have a live event, I'll be sure to plan it on a full moon. And I'll invite everybody. Like, come in and experience the madness, the goodness, just the perfection of walking under a full moon. December 5th was a spa day. We have 2 or 3 other team members located in San Diego. I said, girls, let's go out. We're going to go to the spa, then we're going to go out to dinner afterwards as a small way to say thank you. Why are we doing this? Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if we aspire to have an excellent team, excellence is mind, body, and soul. And boy, did we have a good time. Okay, here's something that hit me up sideways that when they tell you about business, you got to plan for things that you just can't plan for. I had unexpected oral surgery. Oh my, you guys, this is a whole other podcast. Like my teeth, I am literally part werewolf. I think I have more teeth than the average person. I definitely have more roots than the average person. Like my teeth hide teeth. Okay, are you guys fully disgusted? I just saying that and I just disgusted myself. Listen, I had to go to like specialist. It was like the worst thing. I was out of commission for like multiple days that month. It was awful. All of this while I'm trying to get end of year ready. All of this while it's like the holidays and we're making tamales and who's going Christmas shopping and I'm supposed to be wrapping. My mouth is all swollen anyway. So welcome to that. So that on the 15th, just a few days after oral surgery, Crystal said, yes, she started. So we ended 2025 with a key executive hire that would not have been able to be so effective had I not the month before clearly outlined who this person was supposed to be, what those values had to be entrenched and intact, and what I wanted this person to help us grow and do. On the 17th of December, I did another deep work day, no tasks, no work, and I built out a marketing roadmap. Like literally in the tech space, when we were building Social Curator, you would build out a roadmap. What are we doing this month? What are we doing that month? What has to be true for all of these other things to happen? So I laid out my marketing roadmap and I'm like, in 2026, I don't care how we get there, but here are the 8 things that need to be true by the end of 2026. And if we do that, hot dang, it will feel good to be a gangster. But if we don't take the time to figure out where we're going, it will never happen. On the 19th, oh my gosh, this was a TikTok day. So I kind of batch iPhone content for social media. And then I just got this wild idea. You want to know what I need? We need to do a whole new content revamp. So very last minute, like 2 days before this content batch day, rented a studio in Los Angeles, hooked up with one of my content creators. And I was like, okay, so we're just going to extend this day. We're going to create promotional material. I volunteered my husband to photograph me, which he was not really excited about, but I was like, listen, it's you and me, kid. We out here building. We're going to do the dang thing, Bonnie and Clyde. Like, you like it or you love it. What are your options? Okay, so we did that. This is all before stinking Christmas, and I usually take 2 weeks off at the end of every December, and this year I did not do that. I don't apologize. I don't back down. It is just the nature of how this year worked. I look forward to the 2 weeks off I will have at the end of next year, but I am in a build phase. I am in a go phase. The brick that I had laid down was not resentment. Like, why am I working when I'm usually off? It's, I know what I'm doing and I'm putting it down now so that in the future I have built something else. And during that time, the few days after Christmas and in between New Year, JD and I and Luna went to Santa Barbara and I was able just to sit and I was able to say, what worked this year? What didn't work this year? What do you want? I have to tell you, dang, that was like the hardest question. The hardest question was, what do you want? Because it feels like every time I say, oh, this is the thing I want, and then I get about 2 yards to that end zone, I was like, just kidding. I didn't want that. You see, I wanted this. In a perpetual hamster wheel of more and more and more. I had to get real beyond the commas and the zeros and the bank accounts and the investments and just say, what do you want? Because if you build a life that's based on that, then you end up rich. But are you happy? Have you found fulfillment? Have you helped other people along the way? Have you left the world better than you wanted it? And if you didn't, you did it wrong. At least I did. So I took a step back and I said, what is it that you want? And I'm sorry, I'm like, what the heck? Why do I feel tired? I think I'm probably emotional because I'm tired. Hey, okay, I got it together. I get emotional because I realized that for so many years, I was building for the number and I was building to prove. And it was at the end of 2025 where I was like, dang, no more. Like, that's the old you. In 2026, that's the new you. And the new you is playing your game and helping people play their game. And you do that, you get everything you want. And so to me, I felt like I ended 2025 like shedding of that old skin. And I step into 2026 and I'm like, my game, my way, I'm going to have fun. And I hope the same for you. Now, if you heard all of these laying bricks and you're like, Jasmine, that doesn't sound like fun. I know, maybe I'm sick and twisted. Maybe the climb and the build and the work and the grind, maybe that is my version of fun. Or maybe that's the price I'm willing to pay so that the life that I am living is full of fun and fulfillment and purpose. I hope that same for you. I want to say thank you for being around every single quarter. Thank you for watching and listening to the Jasmine Star Show. And if this show had any sort of impact, I would love to hear from you on a DM. Like truly, like what do you like to hear? I make this show for you. So when you give us that feedback, it really does go a long way. Thank you again.